whenever I'm here at the hotel on night shifts, this is gonna sound really, really, really weird, but I tend to like to kind of make myself on edge, creep myself out, if you will. So when I'm here, I watch a lot of, historical, like icebergs, deep cut icebergs, rabbit holes, JCS, if you guys know who that is, true crime stuff, and more so paranormal stuff. And it's funny how I actually got this idea because I filmed two videos tonight, and I don't know when I'll post this one, but that's besides the point. And after I did, I was out working on all the paperwork I have to do for my job here late at night. It's almost 3 a.m. and I was watching retro angry grandpa videos, and it was all like his stories about telling his own personal experiences with the paranormal and stuff like that. And his videos were they're creeping me out more than I usually get creeped out, and my mind just started racing about all the things that I've seen in my life. Or it could just be my mind playing tricks on me. Shout out the Ghetto Boys, if you know, you know. Sorry, taking a little sip there. But I wanted to get on here and tell some of those stories from back in the past. I would love to do this with no editing. I would love to just, keep it real and authentic with you guys and kind of tell the stories from my perspective and what I can remember. So I'll kind of do this in chronological order. The first paranormal, my first paranormal experience was back around, I want to say fall 2018. Where I come from, it's a very, very small town surrounded by other very, very small towns. So a lot of it is just country, abandoned roads, abandoned houses, abandoned buildings, a lot of that around us as well. So, back when I was in high school, there wasn't much to do on the weekends. You would go to the football game, or you would go to the basketball game, and then you would go to McDonald's or a Walmart, or just go home and watch YouTube. But one night, we decided to just drive, and we were looking up some of the mythical legends, I guess, around us. And we ended up finding 3 or 4 that we thought were cool. So that night, we were probably driving around for 3 hours. And by the way, all 5s were there. This was a late October night, I want to say. I was 17 years old, so you're at that age where you kind of want to experience a little bit of an adventure. Not to say that I still won't do this today, but I would. But we were driving, and all the places that we went to, we didn't see anything from any of the urban legends that we looked up. So on our way back home, we were pretty far. We were I want to say 35 minutes out from our home. And we were okay, let's call it a night. We didn't see anything. It's 11:30 at night at this time. And, at that age, we really like to be home at 12:30. So as we were driving, my friend is in the back. He's very scared of this stuff. He didn't want to do it at all. So he feels super good, super chillaxed. He's thank God we're done with this. Let's go home. But my 2 friends up in the front wanted to keep doing it. And I was in the back. I didn't really care. So we're driving home, haven't seen anything. And then one of my friend who was driving, his phone actually dies. So we had to listen to the radio. So keep that in mind. We're driving back. It's nothing but cornfields and woods and back roads. You typically don't see too many cars on these roads that late at night. continuously around us. Like, you maybe see one or two, but that's about it. And maybe about 25 minutes away from home, as we were driving on this back road, there was nothing but, let's see, here's the road, here's us, cornfield, woods. No right or left turns. There was a car in front of us. It looked like it was going on the same side as us, but we could see its headlights. That's what was one thing that made us kind of like worried some, is because we were like, oh man, is this car coming close to us? Turned out it wasn't. But we were like kind of going like 35, 40 miles per hour as that car was going like 65. We were kind of like stalling it a little bit. You're like, man, that guy could come like at any moment, but he's not. He's clearly like still going in front of us. Maybe about a minute goes by of us like worried about this car, and one of the radio stations actually goes into like static noise. All you hear is like the and we're like, man, that's really weird, because like it was like a hometown station. It like never goes static around us at all, ever. So we're like, that's weird. We turn to another radio station, and all we hear is static. So again, it's just we're then like, man, this is really weird. So our friend turns off the radio completely. Right when he turns off the radio, we see the car go off into the left. So this car was a good distance in front of us. We were like, okay, well, there's a road up left, up ahead. It maybe lead to like a small house or something out in the woods. But as we go by, there is no road. This car is going directly to the woods through that cornfield. We pass it, we turn around, we go back. The car is just gone. It's disappeared into thin air. As soon as the car is gone, as soon as we realize it, the radio comes back on by itself, and it's playing normally. We ended up going back to my friend's house that night and staying up and chatting about how weird that was. And we looked it up on our local news and Facebook and stuff like that about these like urban legends around us. And it turns out that was like the main like legend behind around us. Apparently, this girl in like the 1960s died in a car wreck on her way to prom. And a lot of the skeptics say, like, if you're going down this street at a late hour of a night, you hear the car radio go static, you see a car drive off that you can't find again. And like the whole story was very detailed about that night that she lived, and yeah, it's a true story too. So rest in peace to her. Rest in peace to like all the victims of that car crash. But not knowing about that legend and then like living it and then looking up the story of what we just went through was pretty crazy. I think that was one of the out of body experiences of my lifetime. So that's my first encounter with something a little paranormal. My second encounter, this is the main story of this video. I'll get into some smaller ones after this one, because I've experienced some stuff in the hotel, and I'm sure you guys would love to hear that. But this is like the main story. So it's summer 2019. I have tickets to Lollapalooza in Chicago, a music festival. I had tickets to go with my dad and my uncle. And unfortunately, my dad could not go. He had stuff to do. So I got an extra wristband. I was like, okay, that's cool. I'll invite one of my best friends to come out with me and, enjoy this weekend with me and my uncle. So I invited my best friend, and he was super giddy about it, just super excited. He has a love for music that he doesn't really talk to people about too much. He's a quiet kid. And I was like, oh no, it's all cool. Like, let's do this together. Let's do it. So that Thursday before we leave, because we left that Friday morning, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna come stay at your house, because he's driving to my uncle in the morning, and then we're taking off from there. So he's like, oh yeah, that's all cool. Just come out to the house. You'll be all good. You know, get you food, get you some water. We'll watch some Family Guy and we'll go to bed. I was like, okay, cool. Yeah, simple night. So let me preface by saying this. His house is legitimately in the middle of nowhere. Our small town and another small town. He lives right, like dead center in the middle of both of us. So it's nowhere. He has 2 houses alongside him. One of the houses is his grandpa's, who's like 90 something, and the other house is his aunt and uncle, who are not home at the time. They're on vacation. So that night, I go, and his house is like, I still go to it to this very day, and I always feel this like uneasiness whenever I go over there, or whenever I drive home at night, or whenever I get there late at night. So I always still feel like a little uneasy. But I get there that night, and it goes really smoothly. We're sitting down in his basement, and his basement is huge. It has another, like a bedroom down there. It's like a complete finished basement with like its own living room. So we're sitting down there, we're watching Family Guy or Rick and Morty, whatever it was, American Dad. Like, we love those types of shows, and we watch them together. I end up falling asleep at like probably like 1 a.m., 1:30. And what usually happens is he would fall asleep down there, and he would, wow, it's just like perfect timing. Forgot that light just like turns off by itself. It means I've been recording for a little bit, but anyways, that's besides the fact. He'll usually get up in the middle of the night and go off into his own room. I kind of like this atmosphere though. I kind of like it's just dark. Anyway, so that night I wake up around 2:30, and I'm on his couch alone downstairs. We see the Netflix sign that says like, are you still watching? Continue or not? And I was like, okay, I'm not watching. I'm like half asleep at this instant. I'm on his couch, right? So downstairs he has like a boiler room too. So I'm getting chills just thinking about this. I toss over and I see this woman with long black hair. I still don't know if it was a woman. I saw like the silhouette of a back of a woman. She was in this like tight dress and had long black hair, like down like to her mid back. I'm thinking, this is no way. This is like sleep paralysis, or I'm lying to myself. This is my brain playing tricks. I turn back around and I try to fall asleep again, and I can't. I'm like, I gotta look again. So I turn back over, and again, it's the back of her, but it's gotten a little bit closer to me. I quickly put the blanket over my head like a small child. I know that's not the best thing to do, but my fight or flight at that instance in my life was like non-existent. I felt like I was like still, like I was numb, like I could not move even if I wanted to. I put the blanket over my head and over my eyes, and I was like slowly peeking back out, and again, it's just her back with the silhouette of like, her hair and her dress, and it got even closer. So at this point, we're maybe like 8 feet away from one another. I ended up throwing the blanket over my head and falling back to sleep. That's part 1 of the story. So this goes on for maybe about a year or 2. I'd probably say 2 years of me not telling anybody, because even when I would, talk about it amongst myself or think about it, I'm like, dude, you're a liar. You're making this whole story up. None of this makes sense. And, just move on from it. Like, you can't tell anybody. No one's gonna believe you. So I go back to that friend's house. It's around 2021 now, 2022. And he has a stepbrother who sleeps in, remember, so there was a bedroom down in that basement. He sleeps down there. And he's sleeping down there, and he's like, man, last night I had like some crazy dream. He woke up and his door was wide open. In his bed, he slept like opposite way, where it would look out at the door. And he's like, figure of a woman outside. She was just watching me out by like our little boiler room that they have over by, just like 10 feet away from his room. He's like, it was crazy. He was like, I can describe her in like pitch perfect detail. He's got to remember her like features. Apparently he saw her face and everything. But yeah, I was like, oh yeah. I was like, what'd she look like? He's like, she had this like tight like black dress on, long black hair. And I was like, there's no way, there's no way, there's no way, there's no way, there's no way. I said, there's no way that happened. He's like, dude, I swear. He's like, why would I make this up? After he said that, it clicked all in my brain. And we started discussing the stories together that I had in his experience. And now we're about a week from when we talked. No. It was a day after we talked. I left his house and went back the next day because it's like summertime 2021, 2022. So we hung out every day. And I get there and he goes, come down to my room right now. So I get down to this room and he had a TV that was mounted like on the wall. Big old TV, like a 54, 64 inch or 65 or whatever, I don't know. And the TV fell the night after we talked about it. His TV fell off of it, hit the ground, shattered everywhere. And as we're discussing that and how crazy it was, he goes, James, or Zappy, James, it's my real name, sorry. He's like, I have something even crazier to show you. I go, you can't get much worse than this, right? A TV that you mounted on and has stayed on that wall for years now, just randomly falling the night after we talked about our experiences. He lifts the back of his shirt up and there's scratches all over his back. And I mean like deep scratches all over his back. Like deeply cut into his back. So, at that moment we're both freaking out. And we end up just dropping the whole thing because we knew if we continued to put out that energy about talking about it while we were there, we were probably going to experience like a little bit more or more bad things could have happened. So we left it there. Now, a year later, I want to say 2022 or last year, 2023, one of my best friends, he's a welder. He moved to another state, but he comes back for holidays and stuff. And whenever I see him, it's like instant chemistry. We talk about everything, but the main thing we talk about is our paranormal experiences. Especially where he's at, because there's a bunch of mountains and woods, and he always hears and sees stuff, so it's always an interesting topic for the both of us. He comes back home, and we're having a night out in his garage. A simple night, we're both drinking, we're both listening to music, talking about life and, all that kind of stuff, movies, love, music, everything that has to deal with life, and what we surround ourselves with. We get into the paranormal talk, and he was telling me all these stories about what he's seen in like the last year or two, and I was telling him that too. But I still didn't tell him this story yet. I didn't tell him yet. And he goes, James, if I tell you the story, please, know that this is for real. I don't want to fuck with you right now. This is a real life story. I'm like, okay, yeah. And he tells me the exact same story about him when he was around 7 or 8 years old at that best friend's house, seeing that exact same figure and that exact same hair. I feel creeped out right now just telling you guys that story, because that's such a personal story to me and those two guys, and I just found it so interesting that I could sit here and talk about it on a channel and ramble about it. And I hope you guys really enjoy that story, because that might be the craziest, I don't want to call it coincidence, but experience I've had with the paranormal. That one story right there. And if you think it's fake, I completely understand, but you will always think it's fake until you live through it, because there's no explaining how I felt in that moment. besides that, I have one more story for you guys, and I'm going to make it a little quick, or I guess a bunch of smaller stories, I guess. No, this is a pretty long one. This has to do with the Hat Man, 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 the Hat Man. Popular figure in today's society. I mean, I think a lot of people know about him because of TikTok or creepypastas or anything like that, but last year I moved in with one of my best friends, also my cousin, and my aunt, and I moved into his brother's room while his brother moved off. So during that time I didn't get a lot of sleep because that was when my parents first left, so I was just kind of on edge because I wasn't at home all the time. Like, it wasn't my home just yet. It was like within the first 2 months of being there. Also, that's when I first started working these late night shifts. So I was kind of on edge all the time, you know, never sleeping or oversleeping. And, you know, one night, his house is kind of like arranged weirdly. You know, you have these 2 rooms. There's his room, there's my room, and you have this long hallway to the bathroom, and it's just pitch dark. And I always remember to shut my door. And one night, in the corner of my eye, in the closet, I would always fall asleep at like 2 or 3 a.m. because, like I said, I would work these shifts or whatever, and I would just watch YouTube or whatever, and then I like to sleep in complete darkness with no sound, or a little ASMR, but it's usually off at the time I wake back up. I woke up in the corner of my eye in my closet. I saw what people like to say as a figure is the Hat Man. And maybe about a week later, I opened my eyes and my door was latched a little bit open, and I saw him through that crevice into the hallway. Those were 2 very creepy experiences, but the worst part of it is when I decided to tell my aunt and my cousin about it, because they're both pretty big, like, paranormal, like, freaks about it all. They like to hear about that stuff. They like to talk about it, especially my cousin. He loves that stuff. My aunt was telling me a story about how my cousin would, when she was maybe about 4 or 5, this is their sister, by the way, she would always come up to my aunt and just continuously talk to her about a man in a long hat and kind of a robe looking, or whatever, a jacket. She would always talk about seeing a figure like that outside of her window within the light and the bush out there. My aunt never believed it, but my cousin had that story up until she eventually moved out of that house. And I think hearing that kind of played with my mind a little bit more, because then around this hotel late at night, like a night like tonight, when I would be making breakfast, you know, listening to my favorite podcast, kind of in my own world, I would still see that silhouette in a far distance, like in a like a far like a hallway or something like that. Actually, I can take you guys to see where I saw him. Give me 1 second. All right, now come with me on this very quick little adventure to our kitchen. I'm going to show you the little crevice where I would see that figure basically every single week of my life, right through there. There's our meeting room, and there's where the Hat Man would be. So with that, I'll leave you guys, because I feel a little bit too creeped out right now. But that's kind of the last of the stories anyway. But yeah, I would see the silhouette